Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we've got a very special Tuesday night flight for you folks. Tonight, it is me, the incomparable, the funny, the witty, the biggest Chris Stapleton fan in the world, the Midnight Rider, and I am joined today by the second generation. I nickname them the Bloodline. It's Dario and Xavier, kids of the big guy KG. So they're gonna be joining me today. So we're gonna have some big energy, some fun. We're gonna do a little bit different, but before we get going and cracking in the show, we need you guys to pay attention to the link below. It's https colon // www.botfortmose.com /discount /maniacs. And basically what that does is get you in contact with some of the best rum, some of the best whiskey, and the best rye you can get your hands on. They will give you a discount when you put that code in. Again, buyfortmose.com discount maniacs. So guys, here we go. Back to the business at hand. First and foremost, who's the oldest? Is it Dario?
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
All right, Dario. So I got Dario, the biggest fan of Dario that Dario knows, because Dario is his favorite superhero. How you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. And X-Man, what's going on with you? How's everything? How was your day?
I feel good. Everything's going okay. Yep.
All right. So y'all ready to get rocking and rolling with these games?
Yep.
All right, here we go. We got what we want to start the show off with for you folks tonight is we're going to do a recap of the picks we did this weekend, and some of the games, and the fellas are going to jump in and give me some information, and we're going to just keep it going for you, doing what we always do here on the Tuesday Night Flight and the Sideline Junkies Network. First game up, it was the Seahawks 20, the Tennessee Titans 17. Dario, talk to me about this game.
I honestly wanted the Seahawks to win. I'm glad they did. They beat the Tennessee Titans. Hope to see, them do more. I wish I watched more of that game. Xavier?
I was hoping that the Titans won. They didn't. So, kind of made me mad.
All right, so, we had Seahawks 20, Titans 17. We had the Geno Smith come back and play this week. The Titans are in a precarious place because it's going to be hard for them this year because they're at that point where I don't know if they know what the next step is. Will Levis is kind of the quarterback of the future and kind of not. Anybody have any impressions on Will Levis? Tennessee quarterback?
Nah, I didn't really watch it like that. I just watched a little bit here and there. I can't really say much about it myself.
X-Man, you got anything for me?
Nah.
Okay. All right, let's go to the second game. Second game featured the Browns and the Texans. The Browns 36, the Texans 22. The big story from this ball game, Joe Flacco goes for 368, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Amari Cooper, 11 receptions, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the Texas side of the ledger, Davis Mills actually played 2 touchdowns on 149 yards passing. Dalton Schultz, 8 receptions, 61 yards. Guys, any thoughts on this game? Because this game actually puts Cleveland in the driver's seat for the wild card.
I didn't know Joe Flacco was still playing. That really surprised me. And to see him get that many passing yards, that was really great. It really surprised me because I didn't know he was, still in the league and all that. I thought he was, gone, retired or something.
Well, they had to make the emergency move because their top 2 were out. They moved on from Dobbs, so they needed a quarterback, and they weren't going to let the rookie DTR hold the team hostage. So they went out and got Flacco. I think the person that loves Flacco the most is Amari Cooper. He's probably had 3 of his biggest weeks of his career. He just took Josh Gordon out of the record books. Josh Gordon was the first receiver with back-to-back 200-yard games, and now he's got Cooper has back-to-back with 265. I think he's going for 3 this week. X-Man, what you got for me?
Yeah, I didn't think that I had the Texans winning this, so I didn't think the Browns was good enough to win.
So you didn't like the number 1 defense in the league, or one of the top defenses in the league?
No.
Okay. Any thoughts on the Texans because they're on their 2 backup quarterbacks?
Seems like we're in a quarterback drought right now. A lot of teams not having a quarterback, is really hurting a lot of them.
No, I totally agree. I think the situation now is we're at a spot where these teams are going to have to start investing in the quarterback position. I think they've taken for granted. A lot of teams use the New England model where you had your starter, Tom Brady, and you could put anybody behind them. But those days are done now because the 17-game season adds just more punishment on the body, more wear and tear. So you're going to start seeing teams amp up. They may have to go the younger route, but they're going to have some better backup quarterbacks in place these next 2 years because it's going to prove itself in the long run that the better your backup position is, the better you can sustain injuries throughout the course of the season. Any other thoughts on this game before we move on?
No, not for me.
All right. So here we go. The big one of them all for the locals. Jets 30, Commanders 28. The Commanders had to pull Sam Howell because he was only 6 of 16 for 56 yards at the end of the first half. He had thrown 2 interceptions. The Commanders did not look good at all in the beginning of this ball game. They actually started out in the 17-0 hole. One because of interception. The other points came via block punt. They just didn't look like they were prepared to play today or yesterday. Jets 30, Commanders 28. Your thoughts, Dario?
I woke up. I was asleep. I woke up, looked at the game, and the score. It was close, but the Commanders were still losing to the Jets, and I was like, I hope they pull out and win this. Then I looked. I didn't even look. My dad told me. He said we lost by 2. I'm like, we were close. I didn't know Sam Howell was pulled out though. Maybe it's just still basically his first year, and he's still trying to get used to it, and it just got to him this time.
X-Man?
I agree. People are hating on how he plays, and then it's like getting to his head and all that. And when he does win, people are still bringing him down.
Well, but he's played the last 2 weeks. He did not play well the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's to the point where they had to put Brissett in just to make the offense look like it was going to do something. It was a tough day for him. He looked out of sorts. He looked like he was a shot man. Let me ask you guys this. For the Commanders, because he's been up and down, do you stop this now and actually move on to Brissett? Or do you go back to Howell and see if he can do anything against San Francisco?
I would say a little bit of both.
You can't do both. You got to start one or the other.
I would say, since we're already this deep into the season, the regular season, I would say keep Sam Howell and see how he does this game. And because I still have hope for him. He's still young, and I feel like he could still prove himself if he just, I guess, tries a little more and gets a little more practice.
Well, I think part of his problem is he's trying too hard and he's not trusting the system. So now he's pressing, and everything he's doing is actually compounding the negative by being it's like a double, not a double negative because that becomes a positive, but it's like a negative. Then you stack another negative on top of it. So it's really creating a struggle for them and for this offense. And the kicker is if you're going to evaluate the guys on this team, then you have to put them in a place to succeed. So you're going to have to give them better quarterback play. Dario, did you have a thought on this?
Well, now that you kind of changed my perspective, I think if Jacoby Brissett was doing good when he was put in, I think if we put him in as a starter, maybe it'll change the outcome of next game instead of how it could go if Sam Howell started instead.
Okay. What about you, X? What you think?
Same thing. I think if we start Jacoby Brissett, it'll probably be a different outcome than the past 2 weeks.
So you think against San Francisco, just preliminary, I'm not holding you to this thought process, but you think Brissett gives you a better chance to win versus the 49ers than how?
Yes.
What about you, Dario?
I think if they put him in like they did the past 2 weeks, because you said they put him in to make the offense look a little better than what they originally was with Sam Howell. I think that it'll probably help the team a little bit since he's a little more seasoned and more experienced than Sam Howell.
All right, man. You got to tell me. You got to give me a yes. This has got to be definitive. I need you starting Howell. You starting Brissett. Life is on the line. You starting who?
Starting Brissett.
All right, cool. There we go. All right. Next up was the 1B of our games of the week. This game featured the Miami Dolphins, who scored 22 points against the Dallas Cowboys, scoring 20. It's that time of year where Dallas tends to fall apart, and Dallas kind of fell apart in this ball game. Dak Prescott did have 253 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Running game was non-existent. Pollard 12 carries, 38 yards. CD Lamb 6 catches, 118 yards with a touchdown. Brandon Cooks showed up on the scorebook, 2 catches, 14 yards and a TD. On the other side of the ledger, Tua with 293 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Looks like Mostert only had 46 yards. A-Chain had 24. So both teams' run defense held up. They kept Tyreek Hill out of the end zone. He only had 9 catches for 99 yards. 5 receptions for Durham Smythe and 56 yards. Both defenses, when they came to play, it was a hard-fought ball game. Dario, I'm gonna start with you. Your thoughts on the ball game? Oh, first and foremost, hey, what's up, Ross? How you doing, buddy? I meant to check on you today. I'll get with you after the show, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dario.
I wasn't expecting this little of a run, but both defenses did great against the run that game, and it really showed because both teams couldn't move the ball at all, and then the Cowboys defense in general was good because they stopped Tyreek Hill, who I think is a bigger threat as a wide receiver than most other wide receivers in the game at the moment.
All right, Xavier, what do you think, man?
Same thing with Dario. They did shut down Tyreek Hill. They held him to 0 touchdowns.
But you know he had 99 yards, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, just checking.
They still held him to 0 touchdowns.
Okay. What else you got?
For me, he normally gets at least 1 touchdown per game. But I'm surprised that he had 0. He had 0 this game.
Right. What else?
That's it for me. I was just surprised that they held him to no touchdowns, but he still was able to get good yardage, and there was no run game in that game at all on either side.
Okay. So, my thoughts was real simple, kind of where you guys were. The game itself looked a very physical game because neither team could run the ball. The offenses were struggling to get points on the board. It was a dogfight the whole time, and that's what you want in this situation. You want both teams kind of fighting it out. There was a lot on the line. The Dolphins are now tied for in the second spot in the AFC. For the Cowboys, but number really doesn't matter a whole lot because you're either end up in the 2 spot because you won the NFC East, or you're going to end up in the 5 spot because you're going to be the top non-division winner. It looks like Ross said, I'm shocked Miami won a Dallas type of game. The way it played out was kind of surprising. Ross, I'm totally with you, but you got to remember the Cowboys are like 3-5 on the road. So this is one of those situations where they're going to get in these spots and they're going to struggle because this is what they've done every January, every December. They've struggled to make things happen, struggled to make plays. And I think if there was a play in this ball game where Dallas was on the goal line, they try to run an option, Pollard catches the option, and instead of him angling to the sideline, he tries to cut it back up, and he gets pulled down at the 1 yard line. His feet are in the end zone, but the ball isn't. And that's a big play in that ball game. I definitely helped turn the momentum in that game because if Dallas scores there, they go up, and I think that changes the momentum in the ball game. You guys got any thoughts on any of that?
I feel like that did change the. I feel like that did change the ball game. If he would have scored that touchdown, I feel like the score definitely would have been different, and I feel like the Cowboys would definitely be, cheering a lot more. You'll see on all the social medias, they'll be like, yeah, we still them boys and all that. I I see it a lot every time they win, but I'm glad they didn't do it this time.
Nah, and here you go, Ross again. I know they're trash on the road, and Miami has issues with good teams. I think if they're in Dallas, Dallas wins. I think you're totally right, Ross. I think this ball game came down to 2 teams that don't play well against teams with winning records. So it's kind of one of those things where you had to figure out who was going to be the team that breaks through that glass ceiling for lack of a better term. And this week it was the Dolphins. But I definitely agree with you, Ross, that this was probably going to be a pick 'em. And the home venue was the thing that made this, I guess, kind of help this result. I think by the results being in, or the teams being in Miami, it was going to be easier for Miami to win. I think we picked Miami in the picks on the weekend. I don't have the picks in front of me. All right, guys, now we're going to get to the number 1 game, last night's Monday night ball game, where the Baltimore Ravens took on the San Francisco 49ers. The Raiders had 33. The Niners had 19. Brock Purdy had 4 interceptions. Lamar Jackson was tripped by a ref for a safety early in the ball game. Stat lines, real quick. Lamar Jackson with 252 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He had 7 carries for 45 yards. Gus Edwards with 31 yards on 9 carries and a touchdown. Zay Flowers, 9 receptions, 72 yards, and a TD. Let's see who else. Nelson Aguilar, 3 catches, 10 yards and a touchdown. He always somehow gets in the end zone sometimes. It's like Patrick Queen had an interception. Williams, Kyle Hamilton had 2 interceptions. On the Niners side of the docket, Brock Purdy, 255 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Looks like Darnold, 81 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. McCaffrey, 14 carries, 103 yards, 1 touchdown. George Kittle, 7 catches, 126 yards. Brandon Ayuk, 6 receptions, 113 yards, no touchdowns. Gosh, looking at these numbers, guys, it looks like the Niners didn't have problems moving the football. Their problem was the turnovers just really came back to bite them in the end. 5 interceptions aren't going to help you win a ball game.
Not at all.
So, thoughts on the game, first and foremost?
I saw a notification and it said that Lamar Jackson was called for a safety because he tripped over the referee. I had to see that many times, and I was confused myself. I mean, he was in the way, and there was nothing that Lamar Jackson could do. The referee was in his path, and they
Well,
called that a safety. I was mad myself. I don't know what else to say about that. I was just mad myself.
you can't drop back 13, 14 yards and then move around and then get mad because you trip up over the ref. I mean, the ref is there. He's part of the field. And here we go. Eric Ball, right on time, as if he was reading my mind. Refs are a part of the field of play, unfortunately. So yeah, sometimes they get in the way, they fall, they do things. I mean, I'll never forget there was a game where a guy was running a crossing pattern, and the ref got hit right in the chest with a pass because he was in the way. And sometimes that happens. So you gotta live with it sometimes. But overall, guys, I mean, this was the game of the week. This is Niners, Ravens. Both teams are in first place, the number one seeds. I think this is the first time in a long time we've had this type of ball game. So X, I'm coming to you. Tell me
Wait,
what
I
you
got
thought,
one more
man.
thing.
Ravens 33, Niners 19.
Before X speak, I just gotta say that I thought the score was gonna be totally different, but it seems like San Fran hasn't arrived.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Here we go. Oh my gosh. All right, here we go. I'm gonna go through a couple comments real quick. Before I hit you up, X. Looks like Ross said Baltimore crowded the pocket, which they did. When they couldn't get their hands on him, their hands were up. They smacked the ball, pushed, and put any hands they could on Purdy. Um, yeah, it looks like Eric Ball. I'm telling you, Eric Ball and I are sharing the brain tonight. I've seen a ref run into a wide out across the middle, and the interception was thrown. Sucks. Even last year, I think there was a Commanders game against the Vikings where Curtis Samuel was running down the field. It's either Curtis Samuel or Terry McLaurin, and Heineke throws it up, and the two safeties for the Minnesota Vikings hit into each other and the referee. They both fall, and the ball falls right into Curtis Samuel's hands. So, yeah, the refs are part of the field, and you got to make it work. You got to make it happen. X-Man, your thoughts? X? Xavier? All right,
Okay,
sounds like looks like we have. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't hear X.
Okay, I'm back.
All right, talk
Okay.
to me. So 33 Ravens, Niners 19. Thoughts on the game first, and then anything that stood out to you.
What's it called? Thoughts on the game. San Fran didn't have they didn't have problems moving the ball. But when Purdy threw them interceptions, it came back and messed them up in the end.
Go ahead, finish that thought. That's the thought right there.
Yeah, and since it messed them up, it like took them a couple of chances just to get to the touchdown. And then after that, they got them few touchdowns, and then they couldn't score after that.
Totally agree with you, man. I think you're right on point with that. I think the only thing that caught me off guard was the fact that the Ravens were up big late. I thought this would have been a ball game where it'd been closer all the way along. But when you add in 5 turnovers, it's like Xavier said, it messes everything up. Looks like it tore up the momentum. And then we got another great comment from Eric Ball. He says Shanahan does a great job supporting his quarterbacks, but you can't hold their hands when it gets real. In order to win in this league, your quarterback has to make throws and make plays. You're absolutely right, Eric. Can't turn the ball over against top competition. But Eric, there's one play in this ball game where you have to tip your hat to Kyle Hamilton. The young man has an MCL issue. He's rushing the passer. Christian McCaffrey cut blocks him. He's on the ground. A lineman actually falls on top of him. When the lineman gets up, he gets back up, runs back into the play. The ball gets tipped. He catches the interception. I don't know how much he got in the return, but I know he made the interception on that play. And that's just one of those plays that's kind of indicative of you having players not giving up on plays. That's one of those things that you have to have. Like, your guys have got to want this. And I think that's kind of the problem with the Commanders, where they had a lot of unforced errors in their ball game against the Jets. And I felt like it was more so because they were ready to be on the plane and they were actually willing to fight for that ball game. And when you see a guy like Kyle Hamilton, who for some reason this team didn't want, and he actually catches the ball in the air, out of the air, after being on the ground in the early parts of that play. I mean, it's crazy. And here we go again, Eric Ball. High point interception off the tip. Harbaugh teams give it their all. Absolutely correct, man. Can't say it any better. And it's just one of those things where I think this ball game got out of the Niners' hand early. But they were still in the position, because I think when they went into the half, it was only 16-12. So it's just a thing. And I think with the Ravens, it's back to what Eric said about culture. You got a team where from the top down, there's an identity. And that's the one thing. I know earlier in the year we were talking, and I was like, I don't want anything for Baltimore, but I was being funny a little bit more in that scenario, because when you see the Ravens, you see a team that has an identity. And I think the one thing that the Commanders can take from them is establish an identity, saying who you are. If you like fast linebackers, draft fast linebackers. If you like tall safeties or tall corners, draft tall corners. But stop trying to mix and match. Like, the one thing the Commanders have done in this mix, these 4 years of run, is they talk about positionless. They talk about guys having position flex, and that hurts them in the long run. Because then you don't have anybody good at one spot. You got somebody that's good at two, but nobody great at one. Any other thoughts from you guys on this Ravens Niners game before we move on?
I just thought it was going to be a higher scoring game from both sides, but you know, the Ravens came out on top in a big way. That's all I got.
Right. And here we go. Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and those boys set the tone years ago. Absolutely correct. How huge of a difference is it watching the Ravens and the Niners play, and how they play than what we watched this year with the Commanders? And then the last one is good at multiple things and have no masters at anything. Absolutely correct. Back to Ross' point. Yeah, Ross, you and I have had this talk before, where it's amazing how some of these teams were in the same spot we were 4 years ago, and some of them got it right. Unfortunately, this team didn't get it right. And that's also in part because they didn't handle the quarterback position right. All right, guys. Any last thoughts on the NFL this weekend? Any games that stood out to you? Anything off your top of your head that you could think of? Anything at all?
Just the intentional grounding. You know, I know y'all say, you know, the referees are a part of the playing field, but it's just so bizarre to me. I didn't expect that to happen at all. I had to watch it so many times. I was like, I don't really like that.
I mean, he gotta. I mean, you can't really fault the ref, because the referee's trying to be in a spot where he's out of the way. And then the fact that Lamar literally drops back, I think 13 to 15 yards, he gets into the end zone. And I mean, the ref's backpedaling. He can't turn his back on the play because he doesn't get to see what's going on back inside. So part of that's just what they taught. And then part of that is just when you got a guy that runs a 4-3, running at an old man backpedaling, it just ain't the same. The physics don't work the same. So that's kind of where you end up in that situation. Xavier, any final thoughts?
Nah, I don't have any.
All right, so it looks like another comment from Eric is Miami beating Dallas was expected to me. Chiefs are now feeling the Hill loss now that Kelsey is showing his age. You know what? I don't know if it's excuse me. I don't know if that's Kelsey showing his age or if it's just the fact that their offensive line isn't as good as it's been in the past. And their tackles are being abused right now at a huge clip. And I think that's the problem, especially with the Raiders. The Raiders have been a matchup nightmare for them. I'm not going to say nightmare because they've beaten them the last 7 times, but when they play the Ravens, the Raiders, it's a struggle because Max Crosby and their other end gets after it early and often in the ball game, and they make it uncomfortable for Pat Mahomes. So when you watch that, you can see the difference in those scenarios. And Mad Max is a game changer. Like when we start talking about in this all season, when we break down and we start talking about like top 5 edge rushers, on that right side, Mad Max, TJ Watt are probably the top 2 names on the right side. And when we come to the left, you're talking about Myles Garrett, and Micah Parsons, wherever he lines up. So you're gonna have those type of things, and we can't wait till we get to those lists. And it looks like Ross is saying Mahomes doesn't look like he's getting the ball, letting the ball go, doesn't trust his receivers. Well, Ross, we said this before. When your receivers lead the league in drop passes, we're talking about 33 drop passes on a season. It's hard for a quarterback to let the ball go because you don't know and you can't trust them. And then, like Eric says, they don't get separation. And yes, Danielle Hunter is another person that's a dog on the outside. But when you can't get separation from the receiving core, it's hard to throw them open. You can try as best you can. And then even when you throw them open and they don't catch the ball, it doesn't exactly invite you to throw the ball back their way. So, yeah, that's definitely a killer. Before we move out of the segment, I want to just anybody that jumped in late, please check down at the bottom of the screen. We've got our whiskey discount. It's www.fortmosay.com/discount/maniacs. Again, if you have someone that likes whiskey, rye, or for a limited time only, they have a Caribbean rum that's on sale right now for about $39.99. Those are all options for you. It looks like there's one last comment before we move on from the football. It looks like he says he has zero trust in his receivers, only Rashee Rice and Trav. Rice has surprisingly had a good year. He's got about 750 yards receiving and about 7 touchdowns. So that's not bad at all for a rookie wide receiver. What we got next, fellas? Nate Smith Hall of Fame 2024 class. All right, guys. So I think I go to the background. You guys are going to ask me some questions about some guys that are eligible this year for the 2024 class. Is that right?
Yep, I got a list for you right here, and I'm just tell you some names, and you tell me what you think.
All right, let's go.
All right, first one, Chauncey Billups.
Chauncey Billups, not right now. Yes, he's Big Shot Bob, but I think the early part of his career, he had an okay college career. His early part of his NBA career, he struggled. He didn't really turn on until later on. So I think he has to wait a little bit. And he's only got one. He's got the one championship with Detroit. So I think that's going to hurt him in the long run.
Okay. Vince Carter.
Vince Carter, y'all won't get this reference, but there's an artist that discovered Michael Jackson and Usher, or he had big things to do with their careers. And he always told Usher, "You owe me a Thriller album." And I think Vince Carter is that type of guy that he could do everything on a basketball court. And I think if he only had Kobe's dog, Vince Carter would have won more championships. But I always told people that said that you could put Shaq with anybody. I said they put Shaq with Vince Carter, he still wouldn't win a ring because Vince doesn't take over the ball game. With that being said, I think Vince gets in either this year or next year.
Okay. Tom Chambers.
Wow. Chambers was a solid all-star for about 5 or 6 years in Phoenix and Seattle. You guys are way too young to see his dunk on, it was like NBA 96, where he had like this ugly double pump dunk that he did on somebody. And it was like his signature dunk in the video game. Chambers, I think he has to wait later on another year or two, because not even a year or two. I'm going to say 3 or 4 years before he gets in.
Okay. Michael Cooper.
Coop, 9-time, I think he's 9-time all NBA defensive team. I just don't think he has the championships, but I don't think he has the things that stand out enough offensively to get him in the hall. I think he'd be a guy, if there's like a senior committee for the NBA, they'd be the people that put him in. I don't think he would get in straight off of votes.
Joey Crawford.
Sadly enough, I think Joey Crawford had enough impact on the game of basketball that from a referee position, I think he would deserve to get into the Hall of Fame. I think one of my favorite ejections of his, Tim Duncan's on the bench and he and somebody else are just laughing, and Joey Crawford turns and actually throws Duncan out. I think he gives him 2 techs and throws him out of the ball game. The funny thing is, Joey Crawford comes from, his dad was a official and his brother was an umpire in baseball. You got anything else for me? All right, looks like we might be having a little delay on the other side of this. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, so do you have the list as well?
The 2008 Redeem Team.
Say that again.
The 2008 Redeem Team.
That definitely has to be in there. That has to go in. They have to go in as a group, because they were put in a spotlight that you never had for USA basketball before. Like the last struggle USA basketball had was, and of course they had the struggles internationally, but before that, their other issue was the fact that, like outside of that Russia in 76, and then the last couple years before they got assembled, the USA basketball was in a dark place. And I think we were trying to figure out how to save USA basketball. And I think the Redeem Team saved the USA basketball in terms of allowing us to be egotistical and still having that bravado of being the best basketball country in the world.
Okay. Terry Cummings.
If there's a senior committee, I think you can get in that way. He went to DePaul, right?
Yes, he did.
That's a great pull. That's a hell of a pull. Not to toot my own horn, but I think Terry's going to be. I think he's going to be on the bubble. I don't know if he gets in or not, but I think he would be the bubble guy.
Okay. Marcus Johnson.
I think he has to get in, and I think it helps. It's sad that he has to do it posthumously, but I think he deserves to get in. That's the Portland Power Forward, right?
No, Marcus Johnson is the small forward, small forward that played with the Bucks. I think that's the Marcus Johnson we're talking about.
Oh, then that's the case, then no. I don't have a backstory on that one. Anybody else on the list?
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
He was a part of those 80s teams with Paul Pressey, Craig Hodges. Who else was on? Don Nelson coached those teams.
Okay. I know exactly what you're talking about. No, I think he's another guy that if he gets in, he would have to get it off of like senior committee type of thing.
You're killing me, Smalls.
I don't think he would get in off of the votes of the writers.
Okay. Last two. The woman whose game is complete from A to Z, Jennifer Azzi.
I say yes because they're gonna want and I don't want this to sound the wrong way. But I think they still want to show the impact of women in basketball. And I think she would definitely deserve to get in.
Ross says Marcus was a really good player. He was a scoring machine.
Yeah, I think so too. But I just think, I think with the NBA and the Naismith Hall of Fame, there's a fine line. So it's just weird because you can get in from your international stuff, your college stuff, your pro stuff. So I don't know. I mean, he's probably one of those guys that probably would be in a window where I might have a blind spot to it.
Jennifer Azzi was a dominant force in the WNBA, but before that, she was dominant in the ABL before it folded. She was probably one of the best point guards. Her, Tisha Penichero, Kim Peratt, God, I can see her face, can't think of her name. I follow her on Instagram too. She still can handle the rock, but these are women. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say funny story. Of course, I went to George Mason. Penichero went to ODU. And there was always like one game that me and the fellas made sure we made it to. And whenever ODU came to town, because we had to see Penichero. Who's the last one?
Can you hear me? I'm back.
I got you. Who's the last
okay. One? The last one is Cheryl Ford.
Cheryl Ford. Is that any reference points?
Karl Malone's daughter.
That's what I thought. Yes. I think she gets in because if memory serves me, she was at Oklahoma. And I think they made
shock legend.
I think she made it to a couple Final Four in college, and then she had a good career in the pros. So I think she would get in.
Okay.
And it looks like Ross said, and I think this is about Marquise Johnson. I'm not sure if he's a Hall of Famer, but he was one of the top players during his career. What else you got for me, guys?
That's it. That's all it.
All right, so we're in the last part of the show, fellas. This is where you guys have watched us before. You know what me and your dad do in this segment. It's to wrap this shit up, B. So this is anything you got on the top of your head, in the back of your mind, something that you want to talk about, something that you want to just give a shout out to. It could be a team, it could be a player, it could be a person, place, or thing. Anybody got anything for me?
I just hope next season the Commanders do better. That's all I got. I was disappointed this week and the rest of the weeks.
All right, X, what you got for me, man?
Why didn't they give the rabbits no tricks?
What?
Why didn't they give the rabbit no tricks?
Because tricks are for kids? Am I right? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, wait a second. Oh man. All right. Only thing I got, looking at tonight's slate for basketball, I know the Wizards are in Orlando. I know early on there's a guard that somebody in that household likes named Cole Anthony that was getting his lunch handed to him by Tyus Jones. I don't know if that's still happening or not. Cole Anthony has 3 points. Tyus Jones has 13, 1 rebound and 2 assists. Yes, Ross, the Wizards are trash, but they're meant to be trash. They're supposed to be trash. It's okay. This is what Wizard Nation asked for. This is the teardown. They took it down to the studs, and now they're gonna build it back up. So it looks like the Wizards are down 2 with 9 minutes left in the third quarter. If you guys don't have anything else, we're gonna wrap this up and call it a night. So Let's see. How do I want to do this? For the bloodline, Dario, Xavier, I'm the Midnight Rider. Yes, Ross, it's hard to watch the Wizards play. We don't do any overtime. We're the sideline junkies, and I'm the Midnight Rider. And everybody have a nice night. Enjoy your evening. Good night, folks.
Good night.